Let's take a look at groups and teams. A group has two or more members with a clear leader who perform independent jobs. A team has members with shared leadership who perform interdependent jobs. Group managers are also called directive leaders and team leaders or empowering leaders. All teams are groups, but not all groups are teams. The terms management directed, semi-autonomous, and self-managed or self-directed are commonly used to differentiate along the continuum. Semi-autonomous is between the two ends of the spectrum. The performance of groups is based on four major factors. According to the group performance model, group performance is a function of organizational context, group structure, group process, and group development. Team members tend to be more engaged than group members, and engaged teams grow profits 3 times faster than disengaged ones. A number of overall organizational and environmental factors affect how groups function and their level of performance. Groups and teams are the backbone of organizations because of the system's effect. Each group's or department's performance is affected by at least one other group, and each department affects the performance of the total organization. You can improve important teamwork skills and your ability to develop and build teams. Group structure dimensions include group type, size, composition, leadership, and objectives. Group types are formal or informal, function or cross-functional, and command or task. Formal groups, such as departments and their smaller subparts, are created by an organization and is part of its formal structure. Informal groups are not created by the organization as part of that formal structure. The members of cross-functional or horizontal groups come from different areas and possibly different levels of the organization. They're on the increase largely because they help specialized departments understand and coordinate. Companies create lots of small teams, but they have to link them to a common shared consensus to achievement of the organization's mission and objectives. Command groups consist of managers and the employees they supervise. People are usually hired to be part of a command group. Command groups are distinguished by department membership as functional or cross-functional. A task force or ad hoc committee is a temporary group formed for a specific purpose. Project teams, which use a matrix structure, are a form of task group in which employees have a functional boss and work with cross-functional departments. A standing committee is a permanent task group that works on continuing organizational issues. There are a couple of major differences between a command group and a task group. Command group members tend to form the same functional area, whereas task groups often are cross-functional. The members of global virtual teams are physically located in different places but work together as a team. Advances in technologies are allowing new ways of structuring time in these types of environments. There's no ideal group size. There's no clear agreement on the ideal number as it varies depending on the purpose, situation, and type of work performed. Groups tend to be larger than teams, and size is the span of management. A group that's too small limits ideas and creativity. The workload is not distributed over enough members. On the other hand, a group that's too large tends to be too slow and less innovative, and not everyone gets to participate. In large groups, free riding, also called social loafing, is a problem, as members rely on others to carry out their share of the workload. The appropriate leadership style may depend on group size. The larger the size, the more formal or autocratic the leadership needs to be to provide direction. Managers tend to be more informal and participative when they have smaller teams. Usually, managers have no say in the size of their command group. However, if you have a large department, you can break this larger group into teams of 5 to 9, the ideal group size. As the chair of a committee, you may be able to select group size. People are more willing to express their opinions, concerns, and ideas in smaller groups. To a large extent, the leader determines group structure and the success of a team. The leadership style is different in groups and teams as team leaders share the responsibility as they empower team members. The quality of team leadership, whether from the formal leaders or other team members like you, is becoming increasingly important as it affects team performance. Here are the benefits of setting objectives. They apply to both individuals and groups, and teams set their own objectives. In groups, however, the objective is commonly very broad, usually to fulfill the mission. Part of a leader's responsibility is to be sure the size and composition of the group or team is appropriate for the situation. Realize that in both formal and informal groups and teams, there are official and unofficial leaders. Group structure dimensions include type, size, leadership, and objectives. Job and group roles are different, and they can change. Job roles are shared expectations. Group roles are the roles used through group process. For high levels of performance, roles should be integrated. The three primary group roles are group task roles, group maintenance roles, and self-interest roles. Group task roles are played by members who do and say things that directly aid the accomplishment of the group's objectives. Group maintenance roles are played by members who do and say things to develop and sustain the group process with cooperative behavior to benefit others or the entire team. Self-interest roles are played by members who do and say selfish things, often hidden agendas that help themselves at the expense of other members or the entire group. To be effective, a group must have members who play task roles and maintenance roles while minimizing self-interest roles. If you're a manager or a team member, you should be aware of the roles group members play. If no member is playing the task or maintenance role required at any given time, you should play the role. To create a win-win situation, you balance personal and organizational interests. All groups form their own unwritten norms that determine what behavior is accepted. Rules are formally established by management or by the group itself. Norms are not developed by management or explicitly agreed to by the group. They develop as members interact. Norms are the expectations about behavior that are shared by members of a group. Norms develop spontaneously as members of a group interact and compare themselves to other members. If a group member does not follow a norm, the other members try to enforce compliance, in other words, peer pressure. As we've all faced group peer pressure, we can understand how it's a powerful influence over our behavior. Be aware that we tend to adjust our behaviors to try to match that of team norms. The extent to which members of a group abide by and enforce group norms depends on the degree of loyalty and cohesiveness. Group cohesiveness is the extent to which members stick together. 6 factors influence group cohesiveness. The stronger the agreement with the commitment and achievement of the group's objectives, and the more success it has in achieving its objectives, the higher the cohesiveness of the group. Generally, the smaller the group size, the more homogeneous the group members, and the more equal the level of participation among members, the higher the size of cohesiveness. Cohesiveness clearly affects performance. First, these types of organizations have a culture of having fun together. Second, everyone's included. Members like to be together and they care for each other. Last, they cooperate and behave according to group norms. So team members play both task and maintenance roles, and no one plays self-interest roles as they work for the success of the team. As a team member or leader, you should strive to develop cohesive groups that exhibit a high level of productivity. Implement the 6 factors here to help develop team cohesiveness by helping the team set and achieve objectives. When it comes to teams, be sure to be inclusive and maximize diversity. Status hierarchies develop in teams. The more respect, prestige, influence, and power a group member has, the higher their status. Status is the perceived ranking of one member relative to other members of the group. It's common to strive for high status within a group. Status is based on several factors, including members' performance, job title, wage or salary, seniority, knowledge or expertise, interpersonal skills, appearance, education, race, age, sex, and so on. A group is more willing to listen to high-status members and overlook that member breaking norms. High-status members have a major impact on a group's performance. If high-status members support positive norms and high productivity, chances are the rest of the group will too. Another important factor influencing group performance is status congruence. To be effective, you need to have high status within a command group, maintain good human relations with the group, particularly with high status informal leaders, and be sure that they endorse positive norms and objectives. But in reality, be sure to listen to and include low status members in the group process. The decisions made by groups and teams have a direct effect on performance. There are advantages and disadvantages to group decision making. In groups, decision making authority is held by the manager, whereas in teams, decision making authority is held by members through empowerment. Shared decision making is the trend. However, the level of participation in a decision should be based on the decision. Conflict is common in groups and teams, and unresolved conflict can have a negative effect on performance. Conflict of ideas can help team performance, but personal conflicts tend to hurt relationships and performance. Unresolved conflict often leads to members' withdrawal from the group process and hurts cohesiveness. So you need to prevent disruptive conflicts and resolve conflicts to maintain productive working relationships. If you understand group process skills, you'll be a more effective member, leader, and manager. It's generally agreed that all groups go through the same stages of development. This has been called the team development process and cycle. The stages of group development are forming, storming, norming, performing, and termination. The forming stage, also known as the orientation stage, is characterized by a low developmental level. When people first form a group, they tend to have a moderate to high commitment to the group membership. However, because they've not worked together, they often do not have the competence to do the job as a team. During forming, members have concerns about the structure, leadership, and objectives of the group. This stage is more characteristic of task groups and have clear beginnings. During the forming stage, the appropriate management style is usually autocratic. That is, a manager tells group members what to do and how to do it and closely oversees their performance. Allow some time for group members to start to get to know one another in this stage. The dissatisfaction stage is characterized by a moderate development level. As members work together for some time, they tend to become dissatisfied with the group. During the dissatisfaction stage, the group needs to work on resolving its structure and process issues before it can progress to the next stage of development. During the storming stage, the appropriate management style is usually consultative. That is, you as the manager are highly directive and oversee group members' performance playing the task role. At the same time, you're supportive, including their input and playing the maintenance role. All groups form their own unwritten norms that determine what behavior is accepted. Rules are formally established by management or by the group itself. Norms are not developed by management or explicitly agreed to by the group. They develop as members interact. Norms are the expectations about behavior that are shared by members of a group. Norms develop spontaneously as members of a group interact and compare themselves to other members. If a group member does not follow a norm, the other members try to enforce compliance, in other words, peer pressure. As we've all faced group peer pressure, we can understand how it's a powerful influence over our behavior. Be aware that we tend to adjust our behaviors to try to match that of team norms. The performing stage is characterized by outstanding development. At this stage, commitment and competence do not fluctuate much. The group works as a team with high levels of satisfaction. The group maintains its effective group structure and process. The fact that members are very productive helps lead to positive feelings. The group structure and process may change with time, but the issues are resolved quickly and easily. Members are open with each other. During the performing stage, the appropriate management style is usually empowering. You give group members the authority to do their tasks in their own way and to make decisions on their own. It's now a self-directed team. Groups at this stage have members who play the appropriate task and maintenance roles. Command groups do not usually reach the termination stage, also called adjourning. However, task groups do terminate. During this stage, members experience feelings about leaving the group. Managers and employees can be trained to become better team players and leaders. But you can't rush the change process, which we'll discuss before training. It's difficult to manage change. You can't take an organization or a group and turn it into a team overnight. You need to carefully take the team through the stages of development. Organizations offer ongoing training to benefit both employees and the organization. An organizational development team building program is also very helpful in turning groups into teams with the help of a change agent. The roles of group manager, directive leadership, and team leader, empowering leadership are different. The group manager takes responsibility for performing the four functions of management. Team leaders empower members to take responsibility for performing the management functions and focus on developing effective group structure and group process and furthering group development. To make the transition, group managers need the attitude of understanding that they're not more important than the rest of the team and they need to be a team member. Let's discuss team leadership, realizing that a group doesn't develop into a team overnight. Team development is a gradual process, not a light switch. Leading. Most teams do identify a specific person as a leader, but the leader shares the responsibility. Planning. To convert a group into a team, you must empower the members to set objectives, develop plans, and make decisions. Involve members and make sure they know their objectives. Organizing and staffing. The most important part of organizing and staffing a team is the participation of its members in selecting, evaluating, and rewarding members. Controlling. You help the team set the standards and develop positive norms. Members are responsible for monitoring, taking corrective action, and quality control. Individuals should be rewarded and recognized. Good team players should get praise, pay raises, promotions, and other rewards and recognitions for their work. Incentives need to be tied to performance. Here are 3 ways that employees can be rewarded and recognized for teamwork. Non-financial. Being part of a successful team is satisfying, and as it provides an opportunity for personal development and to help teammates grow, as well as providing enjoyable relationships. Skill-based pay. Employees are paid for learning additional skills or knowledge they need to perform multiple jobs within a team and to share knowledge with other team members. Employees share the gains through productivity, costs, and quality. Unprepared managers tend to conduct unproductive meetings. There are at least 6 areas in which planning is needed. A written copy of the plan should be sent to members prior to the meeting. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, do we need this meeting and why? You need everyone to understand why the meeting is important or what they're going to accomplish in a meeting. Limit attendees. Too many people at a meeting slows things down and wastes the time of people who don't need to attend. Participants should know in advance what's expected of them so they know what they're supposed to do at the meeting. Every formal meeting needs an agenda distributed beforehand. Get team members' input on which days of the week and times of the day are best for meetings, but before lunch is usually the most productive time. Be sure to select an adequate place for the meeting and plan for the physical comfort of the group. Meetings are typically scheduled for 30 to 90 minutes, as longer than this reduces the quality of decision making, but they shouldn't run for longer than it takes to accomplish objectives. The leader's primary role is to facilitate discussion. However, the leader should determine the appropriate management style for the meeting based on the group's development stage, and different items may need to be handled differently. Meetings via technology will never be as effective as interacting face-to-face, so try to meet in person. Starting and ending meetings on time is important. You also don't want team members to be late for their next important activity. At a first meeting, a team is in the forming stage. A recommended sequence is introductions, objectives, and role assignments including leader, timelines, and contact information exchange. During or following this procedure, scheduling a break enables members to interact informally. If members find that their social needs will not be met, dissatisfaction may occur quickly. Meetings should have the following 3 parts. Identify objectives. Begin by reviewing progress to date, the group's objectives, and the purpose or objective for the specific meeting. Cover agenda items. Stick to the agenda and keep the discussion on track to ensure you achieve objectives. Be sure to cover agenda items in priority order. The leader should summarize what took place during the meeting. Employees help the team and organization through voice, the expression of ideas about work. Your group may have one or more members who are not interested or engaged in the meeting discussion. The board person may be preoccupied with other issues and may not pay attention or participate in the group meeting. Attention spans are dwindling, so if you don't involve members every few minutes, they'll tune you out. To succeed, it's important that all members contribute to the team's task without social loafers that are also called free riders. Whenever you work in a group, do not embarrass, intimidate, or argue with any members, no matter how much they provoke you. Don't belittle others in meetings and don't let members belittle others. If problem members do not respond to the preceding techniques, confront them.